Welcome to this Talking Point, the show that delves deep into the topics that matter most to you. I'm your host, Damien Anderson, and today we're going to have a thought-provoking episode lined up for you as we explore the world of trust. Now, obviously at the Wealth Masters Club, trusts form an integral part of what we do and how we do our investments. And they've also long been an integral part of any sort of estate planning and providing individuals and families with a mechanism to protect their assets and manage wealth and obviously plan for the future. But of course, despite the importance, trusts are often raising numerous questions, like how do trusts work? What type of trust are there? How do you go about setting up a trust? And, these are sort of questions everybody asks because it's not something we were taught when we grew up. So today we're going to shed a little bit of light on some of the frequently asked questions and just demystify the intricate world of trust. And joining us today is obviously our legal expert with extensive experience in trust law. So she's going to guide us through the complexities and offer some valuable insights in helping us understand the ins and outs of trust setup and management. We're also going to be answering a couple of the most commonly asked questions by our viewers, so ensuring that we leave this episode armed with a clearer understanding of trusts. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Annemarie Schutte, the Managing Director of Treasury Trust Services. So Annemarie, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and I look forward to our chat.
Hi, Damien. Thank you so much.
Annemarie, now the first thing is that we get a lot of the time. So a lot of our clients or people that watch say, my parents have set up a trust or we've set up a trust many years ago, and it might not be in line with what it needs to be today. So can somebody amend a trust deed?
Yes, Damien. The trustees and typically the founder, if the founder is still alive, may amend the trust deed, since the trust deed is a contract between the founder and the trustees. Also, something important to note is once an amendment is made, the trustees also need to establish if any beneficiaries have received a benefit. If yes, then that specific beneficiary also needs to be a party to the trust amendment.
Now, Annemarie, let's say there's a situation where someone's got a trust deed set up and the trust deed does not make provision for amendments. Can that still be amended? Is there a way around that?
Yes, Damien. So as I stated previously, a trust deed is a contract between parties. And in terms of contractual law, you may amend a contract. Once again, if the founder is still alive, the founder would have been one of the initial parties to the contract. If the founder is deceased, then the trustees in office, and once again, possibly a beneficiary, will then have to amend that trust deed.
Now, Annemarie, we've obviously spoken about the fact that, yes, okay, people can change their or make amendments to their trust deed. But what is that process that they need to follow? Is it quite a complicated process? Is it something they could do? How would one just go about making an amendment on that trust?
So, Damien, it's quite important for the trust advisor just to review the trust deed. If it's a simple amendment, for example, like adding a beneficiary, the trustees will typically just reduce that decision to writing by way of a resolution. And we will require the originally signed document from the clients, and then we will submit that to the master's offices for their records as well. If there's a couple of amendments to the trust deed, the trust advisor may advise to file a replacement deed, meaning you will have a brand new trust deed. Once again, we need the original documents to file with the master's offices. So it shouldn't be a complicated process as we attend to the actual filing and the process with the master's office.
Now, Annemarie, one thing that we get asked often. So people understand vaguely what a trust is, and they know that, you've got your founders, you've got your trustees, and you've got your beneficiaries. And at the Wealth Masters Club, we always advocate for putting your assets in a trust to make sure that they are safe. But the biggest question we get asked all the time is, do the beneficiaries who are beneficiaries of that trust have any claim on the assets that are sitting within that trust?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Damien. With the trust we use, the beneficiaries will only have a hope to receive a benefit. They can't claim anything from the trustees. And that's because the decisions are all left to the trustees, as it's a discretionary trust. So the trustees will decide if a beneficiary will receive anything and what the beneficiary will receive.
And then obviously another question we get quite often is there are different types of trusts. And at the Wealth Masters Club, again, we always advocate for a living or inter vivos trust instead of a testamentary trust. So why is it that you always say we must have a living inter vivos trust versus a testamentary trust, for instance?
So, Damien, with the living discretionary trust, our client will set up the trust and will still be able to enjoy the trust benefits while he is alive. And that will also include savings on death costs. We also talk about that quite often. But that's one of the biggest benefits, so that you don't lose up to half of your estate just due to the death costs and taxes and all of that. If you've got a living trust, you will start moving your assets over to the trust while you're alive, and those assets will then not be taken into account when your deceased estate's value is determined. So that's one of the biggest benefits of a discretionary trust versus a testamentary trust, where a testamentary trust is created on death of the founder, basically. And once again, first, all the assets will be calculated to determine the death costs, and then whatever is left will then be transferred to the testamentary trust. We are also not very flexible with testamentary trusts. You can't really amend it since the founder, who basically gave the intention to create the trust, is deceased. So we are very, very limited with a testamentary trust in that sense as well.
Then Annemarie, last question. So we spoke now, I mean, you've mentioned it a few times, the death, and, you know, it's something we don't like to think about, but as with taxes, death is inevitable. So with death comes something like a will. And I think the way we've been brought up most of the time is we think, you know, we do things the way we do, we have a will and things move on. So if your assets are now in a trust, do you still require a will?
That is very important, Damien. We also get a lot of clients that say, I don't have much in the beginning, so why do I need a will? It's always a good idea to have a will in place. In your will, you will nominate an executor to administer your estate, which will already just take a huge burden off your loved ones, just to make the administration a bit easier. And then you can also nominate guardians for your minor children, which is very important. And then your will also deal with whatever is left in your personal estate, even if it's just a loan account between you and your trust. So it's still very important to either get a will in place or update your will as soon as your trust structure is in place.
Thank you so much, Annemarie, for your time. And thank you at home for watching. And obviously that brings us to the end of this insightful episode of Talking Points. Now, I hope you found the discussion on trust enlightening and that your questions have been addressed. And remember that understanding the intricacies of trust is essential for anyone who's navigating the realm of estate planning. And if you have any further questions or you'd like to explore the world of trust in more depth, then pop them in the reply section below and we will try to get to as many of them as possible. Just a reminder to also like and subscribe to our channel so that you keep getting notifications about more content. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining, and we will see you again next time on our next Talking Point. Bye-bye.